This meeting of the Harris County Board of Commissioners to order, and Mr. Taylor will lead us in our
Please bow your head and pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for this privilege of coming in here to discuss and to guide and direct the citizens of Harris County in all the various aspects of the positions that we have to look at. We pray that you will bless our police, sheriff's officers, and the police officers in our little towns, and we also pray that you will bless our first responders. Dear Heavenly Father, we are and guide this commission tonight in everything they do. But in particular, we are most thankful for all of our many blessings. We're thankful for the blessings that we have to live in this country, and the privilege that you've given us to live in this country of freedom. We pray that our leaders in Washington will realize that they are there to represent us, not to see who wins in the various fights that develop. We are also grateful for, and we trust everything that we have in you. We're thankful for our freedoms. As I said, we're also thankful for the many other blessings that you have given us. And we're most thankful for the greatest blessing that you have given us and the greatest gift that you have given us. That is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, in whose birthday we celebrate next week. And we pray that you will bless us in everything we do tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Join me for our pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes of the regular session of December the 3rd, 2019. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. A motion and a second. Are there any corrections, questions, discussion? All right. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, please raise your hand. Motion is approved. Nancy, is there an appearance of citizens? No appearance of citizens, okay. The next item on our agenda, under new business, is the financial statement for October 2019. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions? And Clint is here. Any questions on the financial statement? Okay, no questions. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. The motion is approved. The next item on our agenda is the Community Center fee schedule revision. The Community Center's fee schedule was last revised on July the 3rd, 2018. Went into effect on August the 1st, 2018. After several discussions with the board about the fee schedule, there's a consensus among the board members to revise the fee schedule to move away from a membership fee and allow all county residents to use the facility for a nominal charge, and also allow non-residents to use the facility for some type of charge. Our staff has developed a proposed fee schedule to reflect this consensus. If approved, the effective date could be July the 1st, 2020, so the current budget is not impacted with the loss of revenue, and those with current memberships can allow their memberships to run out and expire. Any remaining months on any membership can be reimbursed. Is there a motion? Is there any discussion?
The only discussion I have, which, I've kind of been pushing this, and I actually like the fact that we went from a 2-page jumbled up document down to a 1-page fee. I think it would be easier. More I thought about it is, we stated that it's only for the county residents will have a nominal charge. I don't know what y'all think about it, but in the school system, if you teach here, your kids can go to school here without having to pay an out-of-county fee. The only thing is, if we had any county workers that work here, let's say they live in Maywood County or Talbot County or Troop or wherever, that we would give them the same as if they were a county resident. They still have to pay the nominal fee the same as county resident, as we're doing, but we would give them, because that would be like a perk for them working in our county like we do with the school system. And, in the school system, those children can actually also play in our recreation department. We've done that for years in Little League and whatever, because that's just one thing for, as a perk of, we want you to come here, work here, stay here. So that'd be the only change that I'd like to maybe add, is that if you're a county employee that's a non-resident, you would still get the same as a county resident.
And that's in it.
Is it? Did I miss it?
I added it after we talked.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions. Underneath the first section, where it says organized group fee more than 10 is $5 per day. What is it for less than 10?
That was something that we were looking at with the daycares when they were coming in, because they were coming in with 20, 30 kids. But for less than 10, they would fall back to if they were county residents or not, and they'd get charged per kid, if it was on that aspect.
Well, it says up to 10.
It
That
does.
means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 to be $100.
Right.
Oh, that's for the pizza party.
Yeah,
That's the pizza party. No, this is the one just above that.
Just above it.
Organized group
$5
fee
per day.
per
More
person
than
for
10.
more than 10. Is it $5 per day or up to 10? I mean,
well, currently we charge $3 for daycare fee per kid, is what we currently charge right now.
So per student, up to less than 10.
would be $3?
Well, currently that's what it is right now. So I am not for sure on what we would look at doing it, if we would just continue to do it as an organized group. If they come in with less than 10, still charge them $5 per person, or charge them $3 per person.
Okay, and I'm gonna go on record as saying I think this needs a little more work, but I still have some more questions.
That's not
Okay. There is, let me find it. Underneath the rental fee for the conference room and the classroom, why did we limit them to 4 hours maximum?
That
Rather than say I need to do an all-day conference.
Once again, that to me is kind of new. It was at least a 1 hour minimum. The key is they can't go past 10 o'clock, because that's when we shut the building down completely, even though the staff goes till 8, until 8.
Yeah, but I was wondering, why the 4 hours maximum? Why not? I think that's what it's always been.
Yeah, I think that's what
Why did
it said, but we actually let people rent longer.
And I noticed, and I tried to compare some of these rental fees. The pool, I think all of those are the same.
Yeah, it was a 4 hour maximum prior, that's why it was listed.
Okay.
But we can take it off.
Yeah, we
I
can
was
take
gonna
that off.
say, why could we not?
You can.
Yeah, we can take that off.
I mean, if they wanted to rent it for 6 hours.
Yeah, it's a per hour fee. 1 hour, 2, 6, up to 10 p.m. when the place closes.
And we've had some groups rent for 10 hours, so
We
I
can
mean,
just,
it's more rental fee.
that's, yeah.
It's more. I think those are the only conference room fee. Well, fee was, we lowered that from 50 to 35.
Yes, ma'am.
We lowered that's for county residents. Out of county residents, we lowered that by $30
to $50.
to $50.
How many out-of-county residents have we had typically rent that way?
To my knowledge, I don't remember any. I think maybe one, and that's it. But usually they get it,
A
they
county
county
resident
residents
to
come
rent
rent
it.
it.
Yeah.
We've had a church group like that, and we've had DOT do that, and they actually go through the local organization here and stuff like that. So.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? I'd like to table this and work on it a little more. Until the next meeting. That's okay.
So far, we can strike off the conference room classroom, strike off the 4-hour minimum wording,
Okay?
4-hour maximum.
maximum,
Yeah.
strike that wording. And then the organized group fee, more than 10,
Should we just say organized group fee instead of more than 10 on that?
and that is your daycare
Yeah.
group.
Do they come less than 10 in a daycare?
Usually the daycare group comes about 20, but we also, the other thing is with that, with youth associations, when they have their team parties, we usually charge them when they go swimming. And that's usually what the fee that go into, and usually they have about 10 to 12, depending on the size of their team, with the kids that they include. And that was part of the daycare $3 fee.
Now, do they rent the pool when they do that?
They usually rent a room.
Okay.
We give them the nonprofit rate and rent the room, and for their team parties.
Okay, so they don't have to pay extra for the pool, is that what you're saying?
Well, if you rent the room, you don't have access to the pool unless you pay the $5 fee or the team party fee.
Okay, so I'm bringing my team in for a party. What's it gonna cost me to use the room?
Usually we charge you the $15 nonprofit rate for the pool, for the room, and then it'd be $3 per kid to go swimming, something like that. And that's usually the rate that we would charge.
If we were to adopt this, Randy may not have the figures, or maybe Clint does, what is this gonna cost us in any type of revenue?
Because right now,
Membership-wise, last year we brought in 77,000, then you had the drop-in fees of people just dropping in and paying. It was roughly just under $90,000.
That's a little more than I thought.
and that's membership fees only.
It's
Right.
membership fees only plus the general admission fee, because you would be doing away with that in as well.
Okay. Any thought on how we might make that up, or if we would make that up?
I've sat there and thought about it. The pizza party rental that we have, it would stay with that, and we would recoup a little bit of that money from that because we have a built-in $3 fee for people to go swimming for that, so we would kind of recoup a little bit from that. But we would have to rent the daylights out of the building, and possibly swing towards more of other streams of doing more programming, which I am planning on doing. I've got karate classes starting in January, so I'm trying to program the building as well. And then,
Of course, membership might go up because we'll drop the fee down. You might ask to get more membership. It may not be with money, but you might get more people, which then might bring in more people, which might bring in more people for parties.
yeah, and right now, I'm going to tell you, every pizza party we have, we end up getting a couple of memberships off of it, so you're absolutely right. It would bring it. I feel this would bring in more people. It's just revenue-wise, it's trying to get back to what we were at. I don't think we would do that, and I've tried to come up with a strategy, but at this point, I still don't know.
Okay.
But we all know that this thing is not gonna be a moneymaker or a profit, and the title of the building is community center. So the more we can do to make this accessible to the people in our community, so they can use it, which is what it was built for, that may actually enhance it and have more use to it, so that everybody will understand why they're putting that money into it for the upkeep, because everybody will be using it more. And it might even bring in more students who want to come in there, because they're a county resident, pay $10, and it stays here, and that'll allow, that's a little more for half the year.
And you're right on the students. I think it would bring in more students, but our student rate right now for 3 months is $15. So they do pay that. The other thing that I kind of worry about is the Silver Sneakers program.
How's
Because,
that going?
well, for the month of November, I didn't calculate how many people we had, but I turned in the report, so we should be getting a nice check off it. We had a lot of people come in and sign up. And some of the existing members, their memberships were expiring, and they switched over to their Silver Sneakers. So we've had a good trend of people, but the Silver Sneakers, we would pretty much have to cut it completely out, which that gives us national recognition on advertisement on there, because if we're not charging members, we wouldn't need to charge them as well. And so now, where it would still kind of benefit us is if we used it for out-of-county, people from out-of-county can still.
Like the Silver Sneakers for
Yes.
out-of-county participants.
Mhm. And a
So
lot-
we would have to,
Can't imagine if I'm out of county, I'm gonna drive to Hamilton.
no, to do
So
some.
I was good at Columbus.
we do get a lot on the Silver Sneaker side that play pickleball. We had, like right now, there's 20 people playing pickleball there at the center when I left earlier today. So a lot of the pickleballers come and play because they play at the YMCA, they play at Cooper Creek and some of the other locations throughout the week, so they come and play in the mornings with us as well. So that kind of benefits them. Some of them are out of county, and during the summertime, when the YMCA shuts down for summer camps, we continue ours, and they don't want to play outside, so we get people that way as well.
So what I'm hearing you say is that we would have Silver Sneakers, but only for the out-of-county participants,
Yeah,
not for
because-
the in-county, because we would not be
Yes.
charging them.
And I'll have to go and clear out their Silver Sneakers code for the ones that are county members, so that way when I pull the report, it doesn't pull theirs. And we get paid off of
But
that.
they'd still be able to participate.
Yeah, they still be able to participate.
It wouldn't be like we're getting rid of it,
No.
it's just instead of them paying the crazy fee we had, now they would just pay $10 and still could participate in every Silver Sneaker event we had.
Yeah.
They'd still be a part of Silver Sneakers.
They'll still be a part of the center and everything, be able to do everything that Silver Sneakers is part of.
Will the current software that we have allow you to do the registration card and?
Well,
all
we're
of
actually,
this?
we're currently switching to a different software program, and they still allow us to do the cards, to where they can go and scan the cards like we do currently right now, and you can still go in and just scan your cards. That was the thing that, on this, building in the $5 card fee to where we still get them to buy a card, and it will help us with our staff for them to scan in and continue to come in.
Will that $5 pay for that card?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly
we-
less than or roughly more than?
A little bit more, on average, the card is about $3. It's a little bit more than $3, but we end up buying about 1,000 cards at a time, and we go through them. We buy about two times a year, and we give out the cards.
Makes me a little nervous. Yeah, I think we need to think about it some more.
Yeah, I think it needs more work, so we'll table that until next meeting. The next item on our agenda is the rezoning and the special use permit schedule for 2020. Is there a motion? I make the motion that we accept the schedule as provided. Is there a second? There is a second, a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any questions? And I tried to look through all of these to make sure we didn't have any time. Thank you, thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion carries. Next item, and it is a first reading only. This is the first reading to amend our Appendix A in our zoning to provide a broadband-ready ordinance based on the model ordinance drafted by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs in order to be eligible for the broadband-ready community certification by DCA. There will be no action at this time until the second reading on January the 7th. The reason that I had asked that that we be designated a broadband ready community is DCA, the state DCA, will provide you with that designation. And what it does is, if this is passed, we submit it to DCA, they come back and say you're a broadband ready community. It means that we are willing to work with broadband companies who want to come in here and try to help us with the broadband. It also will put you in line for state funds much quicker than it would if you are not designated as broadband. Are there any questions? Any discussion? Is there anyone who would like to make any comments about this ordinance? Okay, we'll have the second reading. I'm not going to read it because it's about 4 pages, and I don't think you want to hear on that, but it is available if you'd like to get a copy. So we'll have the second reading on January the 7th. The next item on the agenda is a rail bed driveway crossing request by Chance Carlisle. Mr. Carlisle has requested 4 driveways crossovers of the rail bed inside the city limits of Hamilton. The property is located on Hamilton Pleasant Road and is proposed for 8 lots. The written request was accompanied by a drawing entitled the Subdivision Project. On November 5th, 2019, the board approved an amendment to the Railroad Recreation Ordinance. There were 9 inclusions in that ordinance. I'm not going to read each one. Mr. Carlisle has said that while the drawing does not show the grade, drainage, utilities, and public rights of way, is prepared to do that if the driveway crossings are approved. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve these driveway crossings. I stated this before, I think in an incorporated area, I think that's an area that we should focus on developing. There's plenty of sewer and water capacities in Hamilton. Eventually these homes will be right there at the Rails to Trails. More people using this Rails to Trails project that we're working so diligently on. In the past, I spoke to Mr. Taylor about our ordinance, and the major concern was vehicles crossing over this Rails to Trails. Well, if you look at this area where these driveways are, the rail bed is raised above the road, so therefore you have a natural speed deterrent. So I think our safety factor, there's more of a safety factor in mind. People naturally have to slow down across the rails there. So I think that it's just a wise idea to allow these.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Well, my concern is that we have just approved this ordinance with certain requirements in the ordinance. So I will quote Mr. Taylor when he and I were discussing an entirely different issue this week. He said you either have an ordinance or you don't have an ordinance. Well, we have an ordinance. And it says, a survey with proposed grade, drainage, utilities, and public rights-of-way shall be prepared at the cost of the applicant and submitted along with a written request for a new driveway. So I have every confidence that Mr. Carlisle will do that, but our ordinance says it will come with a written request. Our ordinance also says that we will not have multiple side-by-side driveways. New driveways or crossings from a land area must be limited to 1. And then it also says that if there's a county road abutting it, that we won't approve it. So those 3 things are in the ordinance as it is written. This is the first one to come before us. And so are we going to dismiss the requirements in our ordinance to approve this on the very first one? We either have an ordinance or we don't. So that's my only concern. I'm confident he will do the things in the ordinance, but the ordinance says that that will accompany the written request.
Well, you basically give him preliminary approval.
Pending his doing that.
Right. I think that's, because we could have, I think that's probably what maybe our ordinance should have said, that you had to give preliminary approval before that. But, yes, you could give him preliminary approval, and he, still has to submit, subject to him submitting and complying with the rest of the ordinance. If that's what you wish to do.
I can't read the scale on this drawing. Can you tell me?
Yeah, that meets, what that does is that meets Hamilton's requirements, which is each lot has to have 100 foot of road frontage in their requirement. So those lots are shared driveways, so each driveway is approximately 200 feet apart.
Each driveway is 200 feet apart?
Approximately 200 feet apart.
Okay, there is a motion and a second on the floor. Any other
So
questions?
you're saying make that conditional though, of his meeting the 3 points that were raised?
And that was my understanding, is this was kind of like a preliminary session, that I don't want to go and spend all the money until you give me that approval that, yeah, we're going to accept you for the lots, now go meet the design requirements required to cross over the railroad tracks.
I would change my motion to make those preliminary approval. Make those aspects.
All right, any other questions? Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
I do think we need to review our ordinance. And because, this is our first one, and we've gone against what we approved. Not gone against it, but it's not clear of the process.
Okay, Mr. County Manager, you're up next.
Madam Chairman, Board of Commissioners, item number 8. It's RFQ consideration for planning services to update all the county's land use and development codes. In the budget of this year, the board included $125,000 in the Community Development Department's budget to hire a professional consultant to update and modernize the county's land use and development codes. The current codes are about 25 years old and are in need of updating and modernization. However, to obtain a professional consultant with the appropriate personnel and experience in updating local government land use codes, a request for qualifications document was prepared and advertised during September of this year. On the deadline date of October the 18th, 3 responses were received. The companies that responded were Wood PLC, CPL, and Town Planning and Design, all from the Atlanta, Georgia area. The evaluation committee, consisting of myself, the county clerk, the community development director, 2 members of the planning commission, and 1 member of the development authority, reviewed the submitted qualifications and interviewed all 3 proposers in early November. After the review, personal interviews of all 3, and reference checks, the evaluation committee selected Wood PLC to continue the RFQ process based on their qualifications. And based on the RFQ document and information gleaned from the interviews, Wood PLC prepared a very detailed scope of work, including a public participation plan, pricing, and time frame to complete this project of updating the county's land use codes and development codes. Even though we have $125,000 budgeted, the proposed cost came in under budget, $119,500, and the project would take a little over a year to complete, or about this time next year, late December 2020. In addition to updating and modernizing all of our land use and development codes, Wood PLC also prepared an optional scope of work to provide a professional part-time planner to assist the community development department in their work. I believe we're at the time frame and the sophistication that the county is in need of a planner for the community development department. The board agreed with that by putting $42,000 in this year's budget for that exact purpose. So the proposed cost from Wood giving us that part-time planner under their guidance about 12 hours a week, 40 hours a month, or 576 hours a year on site and on call for about $42,000. So, and Wood also prepared another optional scope of work to assist the counties in getting a GIS, a Geographic Information System, up and running. That is part and parcel and goes hand in hand with the update of the codes and a professional planner. A GIS system would help make the county modernize and make better decisions when it comes to planning. And also have a digital zoning map versus a paper map. So it's the scope of work. So the scope of work has three options, three tasks. Task one is updating all the land use and development codes. Task two is having them provide a part-time planner for the community development department. And number three, getting started on a GIS system. So basically the evaluation committee and the county attorney has reviewed the three scopes of work and the master services agreement, and we are recommending the board approve at least the scope of work dealing with the updating of the land use development codes and the master services agreement. Task 2 and 3 would be even better. Lee Walton of Wood PLC is here to answer any questions the board may have. If this is approved, it is recommended that the steering committee, as recommended in the scope of work, also be the same as the evaluation committee. So Lee Walton is here to answer any questions the board may have, and I would encourage John Britt and Chris Littner, who are here, who are part of the evaluation committee, to give you their thoughts as well.
Okay, anyone have any questions from Mr. Walton?
I got a couple of questions, and I think some of it is touched on in some of the information that we've gotten. But the experience, I know there's concern in Harris County that we want to retain a lot of the pluses that we now have. Certainly you're getting spillover from Columbus now, people moving to Harris County, but you frequently hear we do not want to be Columbus.
Right.
And so what kinds of experience have you had? I know we've seen some of the counties that you've worked with, but if you would go a little bit into how you address tailoring the plan that you would be working on with the wants, wishes, and desires of the citizens of the local area.
Well, and thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. Most important in the whole process is listening. And we have constructed or recommended a process for public engagement, which includes a variety of methods, surveys, different stakeholder groups, individual meetings, as well as public meetings, of course, to ask the right kinds of questions and listen and be sure that we understand as broadly as possible and as for many as people as want to be involved, what the vision is. We have, of course, a starting point and a recently completed comprehensive plan, but we're going to expect to have discussions that can confirm vision or maybe learn some things that might be new. But listening is most important because as you stated exactly correctly, each county is unique, each community is unique, and has unique interests and desires and hopes. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. That says we have worked in many similar communities, and both rural and suburban, and we recognize the realities, the practical realities of accomplishing visions. We're constrained. Zoning is a tool. That's one thing that's very important. In the process that we're proposing, according to this RFQ, we're not actually developing a plan. We are developing an updated and reorganized and current zoning ordinance or a combined unified development code. And that is a tool to be used to implement the vision. So it has to be a good tool, it has to work, it has to be both sharp as a tool and also flexible. Through the process, I expect that we'll learn about community vision, and we'll compile and organize and share all that information and planning, and that'll be incorporated into the broader planning process of the county. But we will keep in mind certainly what our task is to give the county the best, most customized zoning and land development tool that will be useful to staff, and then if we're able to assist staff, we'll be using that tool as well.
A number of years ago, prior commission took the step to approve a development, a much more dense development. And then the bloom fell off the rose. We were in a heavy growth period. Matter of fact, it was quite scary how fast we were growing. That kind of put a stop to everything. But the purpose of that was it was going to be our kind of our experience to see if we could do a more dense development, thereby saving more of the green space and everything for a longer period of time. You're growing, we're not going to stop that growth. But, we were trying to look at it and do that. Unfortunately, they're just now beginning to get started again, so we don't have that experience. And whether that was the best plan that we should have done, I don't know. But it was an attempt on our part that we could look at that. But I think there are other folks that have some concerns about that type of development, and understandably so. So I just want to make sure that you say listening. I hope that the listening then carries forward the kind of plan that's presented. But we also want you to be forthright with us and let us know what negatives there are and the positives about different plans, so that we can at least hopefully adopt something and we walk into it fully knowledgeable about what we're doing.
And to go along with that, as what Harry just said, we understand at some level that there are places for more dense development, and then there are places for less dense development based on our comprehensive plan and what people in the county want.
Right.
But what I'd like from you is, and we're looking, let's just say the PRD, that we have a moratorium on until we get you and your expertise and your group in here to talk about it. Let's bring to us, here are the pros and here are the cons of that in an area, in a county like this, where we value that green space, we value space. We don't want to have subdivision after subdivision after subdivision in the whole county. There's a place for it. But what are those pros and cons for those more dense developments? And what are those pros and cons if we stay at the 2 acre lot minimum? Talk to us about those kinds of things, even as you're listening to what people say.
And I would add to pros and cons also lessons learned from other communities. Because other communities have tried conservation subdivision approaches of various different types and with varying levels of success. All across the country, but particularly most relevantly in Georgia. So we can talk about what has worked, what has not worked, and ways that those approaches have been modified over time to react to the realities of the market.
What other communities or counties that would be considered similar to us have you done? We're kind of a unique, we're stuck between LaGrange, Columbus, we're kind of growing to one end and kind of not the other. Or, we are kind of a unique area, so I'd be surprised, or not surprised, I'd be curious to know what other communities are kind of like us.
You're unique in a lot of ways, absolutely. But there are many counties that are on the edges or just beyond the edges of urbanized areas that have very similar values, desire to remain rural and to preserve open space, to, above all, maintain quality of life. And those communities can look very different. I mean, we're currently working with a new city called the City of South Fulton, which is in Fulton County. So you think right off the bat, well, that's not like us, that's urban, that's Fulton County that's in the middle of that. But actually, South Fulton County, if you're not familiar, is the extreme southern part of Fulton County is every bit as rural as Harris County, just because it hasn't been the pattern of development. So even though it is not positioned exactly similarly, we're dealing with the same types of issues. How do we, in those parts of that city that are very rural in character, that are 2 acres or more, typically per lot, how do we preserve that, maintain and enhance that quality of life over time, while other parts of the community experience growth? That's their circumstance. In the past, the majority of our work has been, with county planning, has been within the sort of suburban and exurban fringe. Have not done really so much downtown Atlanta planning or downtown. We did historic district guidelines many years back for Columbus, so we have worked in Columbus, but not county land use planning the same way. So I think a lot of, Barrow County is another that we're currently working in. They're between Gwinnett County and Athens-Clarke County. So some similar positions. They, many years back, made decisions to allow higher density growth than has been the trend here. And so they're experiencing some different challenges right now, but there's similarities as well.
In your project initiation portion of the information that
Yes.
we have, we talk about our meetings and information from the public and that sort of thing, and I like that. I read the entire information. I like the fact that our steering committee would be working with you and would be driving this, but they also would include the Board of Commissioners in quite a few of the meetings and the information. I like that interaction also. There is a county project manager. Who would that be? Would that be you?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just want to make certain of that. I like the fact that there are a lot of listening sessions and that you do have a lot of public information, so that the public can come to you, come to us and say, hey, this is what we really would like, and we can consider that. And I will say that I have confidence in our steering committee. I think that they did a very thorough job. But I do like what I have seen in the information that's been provided to us. And the majority of that is that we listen.
And that's drawn from experience. It's somewhat modified from approaches we've used previously, but very similar.
Would you bring to us portions, or are you going to bring us the whole? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that's
right. That's a good question. So as far as the document is concerned, there's a few key principles. It's important to be able to clearly track what has changed, because there are legal rights to an extent vested in the existing document and how it applies to property. So when it comes to the document, there'll be a clear tracking of what provisions are being modified and for what reasons. A lot of the document effort will be reorganization and streamlining. So one thing that we'll start with, or have developed fairly early in the process, is a new table of contents and outline for the overall document, so that everyone, prior to seeing any substantive changes, everybody can agree that this will result in a more user-friendly code document. And we'll have discussions and receive input on that. And then that will basically become an outline or sort of a checklist for the modifications that will be made, and they'll be presented first in summary format. So following the organization of the document, these are the key, and tied to the public input that we'll receive. These are the key proposals for modifications, and we'll have review and discussion about that. And that'll basically become a checklist for the actual ordinance development as it takes place. So it'll be a process that will progress through the, I'd say, the latter third of the overall process.
The part-time planner,
Yes, sir.
would that be a revolving person, or would it be the same person? And if it's the same person, would it be a person that deals with Atlanta, or somebody that deals with something like what we are? Because I'm about as Harris County homegrown as you can get, and I don't want anybody from some big city coming in here telling me what I can or can't do with property my family's owned for 100 and some odd years.
That's a good question. I have a specific planner working with me. She joined us for the interview process, so I guess the steering committee met. And Anna's actually from Columbus originally. I forget what high school she went to, but she's from the area, knows the area very well, has spent a lot of time in Harris County as well as Columbus, and has worked with me for the past couple of years consistently. So I have in mind primarily for Anna to serve that role. She's also performed that specific role with other cities and other places, or other communities, I should say.
Will she be on site every day, part-time?
No, she would not be on site every day part-time. We would work with staff to, on-site more at the beginning, certainly, to get everything organized and make sure we have a working arrangement that works for everyone. But it's really, what we're proposing is to provide the as-needed technical support, not to create a new position for ourselves or anything. We're here to fill a gap and provide as-needed support in a way that's most efficient and most cost-effective. And so when that involves and requires on-site meetings, that's what we'll do. But from our previous experience, a lot of this can be done through your normal business communication methods without requiring the extra time and expense of putting someone on-site full-time.
And that estimated, that 42,000 salary, that does include expenses for travel?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does.
So it'd be a combination of being here in person, phone calls, preparing reports, attending monthly planning commission meetings, and helping with this process.
And I'd like to add one more point to that, is that we have, from a company standpoint, a quality control process that requires review by a senior professional of everything that any other professional prepares. So any report, for example, that Anna would prepare on, to assist staff, rezoning report, variance report, whatever it is, I would review and confirm before it's finalized and transmitted.
And this person can meet with developers, answer questions,
Yes.
and generally help out the community development department, because we are going down the road pretty fast of outstripping our capabilities. And Brad had talked about that, but he's getting busy in that department with building inspections, code enforcement issues, and generally talking to developers, answering questions. We are finding ourselves in, it seems like every other week, we're in a unique position that with our rules that don't make sense, but we have them and we have to work through them. Like, can you subdivide property on an easement road? And we're tackling those kind of issues, it seems like constantly. And I like to have some kind of, going through this process with a professional planner, working through those processes and making them less relevant, just making them less convoluted, and just solve the problem so they won't come up again. Solve them once and for all.
I like to emphasize user-friendly or customer-friendly in everything we do, and that's in any good, busy planning department really focuses on customer friendliness, user friendliness, and that translates from the documents to the website to the processes of procedures.
What is your anticipated start date if this is approved?
We're ready to start as soon as you allow us. Notionally, 1st of January or after the holiday season upcoming.
You have this in your information that you provided to the committee and to us tonight, but I want you to put it in big letters and look at it every day. Don't predetermine the outcomes, don't follow the latest trends, and don't assume one size fits all when you're in Harris County.
Right.
Because I agree with Rob, we are unique, even though we have similarities to some other places, we're still us.
Sure.
And that's what we determine, what is the best us for the future. And we don't want to look like anyone else.
And that's exciting to me. I didn't get into planning to stamp out the same thing over and over again. That's different types of business perhaps, but I like that each community is unique and each planning and zoning challenge is unique.
We'll probably remind you all along the way.
I'm sure I will. John, do you have anything you want to say? I know you were on the committee.
Yeah, I'll just say that we interviewed these 3 different organizations and felt that this organization was the best of the 3, and hearing him speak again tonight just reaffirms that in my mind that they want to come in and provide a good product for the county and be customer oriented. And I think that's a key factor to be successful in doing this.
Thank you, John. The other comment that I wanted to make was that I think that the 42,000 is extremely reasonable for our part-time planner. And I also think the 10,000 cost for the GIS feasibility assessment is very reasonable. I don't think we could do that for that cost if we did it on our own. I think it would be quite a bit more than that. So I think those costs are reasonable. Any other questions? Mr. Rob?
I would agree with your comment on the feasibility of this, and GIS certainly, once fully developed, where we have overlays, will make so many of our decisions much easier for the community development department and as well as for all of our utilities. It's something that we really would benefit from long term. And if it's already, everything's in the budget except for about $4,500, so I think that's certainly something that we ought to endorse.
Regarding GIS, I do want to be sure that it's clear. That is, GIS is a program that grows and grows and never stops. So what we're proposing here is an initial assessment of how that would get started in the way that's best and most economical for Harris County. The end result is not a fully functional GIS system.
Correct, and I think that is a very fair price.
We get a little bit of help from the River Valley Regional Commission. Yeah, I was very confident down there, but it doesn't begin to do what we really need long term. But this would be a good start on that, pointing the direction and helping us get it started. Because I think we need somebody probably full time with GIS once we really get it.
That's very confident.
Any other comments or questions? Call for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this agreement with Wood, I don't see the name of it right beside.
Just Wood.
Just Wood.
The scope of work that's been outlined and to authorize the county manager and county clerk to execute the necessary documents.
You want for all 3 of those?
For all 3
All
of
three,
the
yeah.
scopes of work.
I would second that.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this for all 3 and a second. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Look
Look
forward.
forward to working with you.
Okay. Mr. Dale.
Madam Chairman, Board of Commissioners, item number 9, the RTP grant mitigation proposal. Basically, this is for phase 3 of the Rails to Trails project. Phase 2 and 3 are currently under construction. It should be finished early next year. However, upon receiving the Recreational Trail Program Grant, RTP, for to pay phase 3, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and the State Historic Preservation Office said that the rail bed of the Rails to Trails project was historic, and paving that rail bed was going to create an adverse effect on an historic structure. So therefore, the state is mandating the county as a grant requirement to receiving the RTP grant of $200,000 to mitigate this adverse effect by creating and installing 2 interpretive panels that highlight the southern central of Georgia Railroad to Chipley during the late 19th century. The board and the state agreed to this mitigation through a memorandum of agreement that was approved by both parties in July of this year. In accordance with that approved MOU, one panel will focus on the arrival of the railroad in 1882 to the county and its development of the town of Chipley that was later renamed Pine Mountain. The other panel will focus on the importance of the railroad to the community's growth and development in the 20th century. These panels by MOU agreement is to be 23 inches by 40 inches and anticipated to be installed near phase 3 and also on the trailhead of phase 1. Once the board approves the 2 historic interpretive panels, the state will then have to approve them. Once approved, the signs can be fabricated and installed. The cost of the signs is $11,000, and this cost has been budgeted in the Rails to Trails project fund.
How much?
$11,000.
Look at your.
I know, that was another typo.
What is, so the cost is $11,000.
The cost is $11,000 for
Thank
both
goodness.
sides. 11,000. If there were 110,000, I would do
Well,
it
that's-
myself.
Yes, $11,000.
$11,000 for both sides.
Okay.
Fabricated, brought down to Harris County and installed. And you have copies of these 2 panels that Suzanne Newberry has researched. So these are panels
I
that,
don't do this all myself. We've got a whole bunch of people that work on this.
so these are the panels, that's the end product of all the research. That if the board approves the content of these panels, then we can send them to the state for their approval and then get them fabricated and installed. Suzanne Newsberg is here on behalf of Southern Research, Historic Preservation Consultants, to answer questions. But again, it is a requirement that the county do this in order to get the grant, funds.
It says that it's going to be on the trailhead of phase 1.
Yes.
Where
Okay.
did you define the trailhead? Because
Okay.
people are not gonna start on that trail at the very beginning, you know, where it is.
When we have the ribbon cutting,
Yes,
the kiosk,
yes.
that's the trailhead.
Okay, right there at
On
the
one side,
intersection.
yes, on one side was the map,
Mhm.
on the other side will be these documents,
Okay,
okay?
that's fine.
And then in trailhead number 2, which will be close to phase 3, we'll have the same trailhead with the map on one side and these documents on the other.
Okay. I just didn't want it all the way past First People's
Right.
Bank at that very
No,
beginning, it's
no,
like
no.
nobody can see it there.
I got one question, kind of reverts to something we discussed. It mentions the man of war in this,
Yeah.
but also we had that historic marker for, what was it, the Iron Horse?
I actually did a little research on that, and I talked to Ms. Newberry today about it. If you type in Iron Horse Trail, it's 3 different states, and you only get 7 hits. If you type in Man of War Trail, it's about 3 different states, 7 hits. Because I was thinking, you know, when we had talked about it, so I actually called her and talked to her. I said, what would you think about us changing the name so that we could include the historical marker that is already there, and also include the man of war. And the name we kind of came up with was the man of war, the Iron Horse of the South, and make that our trail. And I know that seems a little lengthy, but the more I thought about it, if you just put man of war, it could be talking about the horse that won the Kentucky Derby. You could be talking about the jellyfish, just a man of war. Paint that, you know, there's a lot of other things. So I was trying to really make this specific to us, you know, so that if you typed it in on Google, it come up, man of war, Iron Horse South, at Harris County, Georgia. Boom. We're the only one.
Keep
But now these, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
keep
only
Harris County
concerned with
unique.
the panels.
Right. She was my sounding board. When I called her, she was my sounding board because I was.
We can do a title.
Yeah, we were looking at the panels, and I just called her since I know her, and she was kind of my sounding board about because we had been going back and forth about the name.
What I'm here for is just y'all have the content, and are you okay with it? If there's anything you want changed, we have our logo on the bottom, but we still need, I told Randy, we need the county's logo, if the engineer wants a logo on there, and then I have the people I got pictures from to put their credits down here.
I think y'all done a wonderful job of putting a lot of history into
Well,
compact form.
it was not easy. let me
No,
tell you.
that's a tough job, but I
I'm
think
glad
this-
you worked on it, somebody local who understands the importance of it.
most people will spend the time to read
Yeah.
this and learn something
I
from
hope
it.
so.
Whereas if it got too long,
I'm proud of it.
yeah,
And I'm perfectly fine. You did a good job.
absolutely.
And if you look at some of the panels, some of the information that's off the two historical markers where one of these is going, it's actually, will be in the panels too. So you're actually taking this and really tying it all together between the historical markers the state of Georgia has already put there, and then the panels. So some of that information shows, which goes back to, you know, when I was thinking of the changing the names to make it unique to us.
Okay, any other questions or any discussion, any other discussion? Thank you for the work you did.
Thank you very much.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve. We have no more discussion, no other questions. All those in favor? All right, motion carries.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, we changed our name to, so that it's, because we were at a conference, and the guy was talking about rails and trails, and it's in Albany, Georgia, and I'm sitting there thinking, no, that's what we have. So I'd like to make a motion, we change the name of our trail, the Man of War, the Iron Horse of the South Trail. Now, I know that's a lot, but it just makes it us.
So Man of War, Iron Horse of the South Trail.
Without any punctuation in any of that?
I teach social studies, I don't teach language arts. Y'all can,
I would say a colon, but I don't know if that's the correct way. Is the Man of War the Iron Horse of the South? Is it?
it will be when we make this name. Well, it is, you know, we do know that the Man of War came all the way through.
But the Iron Horse is another.
The Iron Horse is the name of every one of them.
A train. Okay.
It's a train, it's just as a train, that's what the Native Americans
I don't
called it.
know enough about the history to know if that's an appropriate name or not,
Yeah.
so I'm counting on you to tell
Yeah,
me.
no, the Iron Horse is what they called it, any train.
Yes.
If you go to Atlanta, they have the Silver Comet Trail, which is named after a train, just like the Man of War would be. So this way, we're actually taking and tying in the historical marker, the Man of War, everything together. We're tying it in so that it becomes basically unique to us as the Man of War and the Iron Horse of the South Trail.
All right,
Because
so
it
you
was
would
a,
do colon,
Yeah.
Man of War, colon, Iron Horse of the South Trail.
Where does of the South come in? Was that actually part, I mean, Iron
Well,
Horse?
it's pretty
was
much
the name
only-
of the train.
right, it was the name of the train, it went from here to Rome, and
So of the South, is that just something you
just
cooked up?
Designated here.
just to designate it here, because if you do Man of War Trail, it's in Maine, Utah, so this way it just designates it as when you look at it, when you Google it, it will pop up Harris County to make it more designated to us.
So you wouldn't say Man of War, Harris County's Iron Horse?
Well, you could, and I would be okay with that, but I do know that it probably went other
I
places.
think you might think that a little bit.
I mean, if you do it, the man, or we could just say we're gonna put the name of the park that's just in Pine Mountain, because that's where the marker is. But I really do think we need to change this name and make it more specific to us. And if you go to the Man of War, Iron Horse of the South, that really ties it all in. And put the colon in there like you're talking about. It doesn't, you know, because it wasn't specific to Harris County, it was just up south, because it went from here to Rome and on up. So by saying the South, you're not, you know, we know it went other places, but we're just honoring the Man of War, and we're honoring the, it being the Iron Horse, which, if you read the historical marker, it talks about the citizens of Chipley had to come up with $1,000 to move to extend the train from the city of Hood up to Chipley. So you know, it just kind of ties it all in together. That's my thinking.
Well, and eventually, when all the trails paved throughout Harris County, it still applies to that.
Right, because it's
of the south is a big area.
Well, we could put up Harris County.
That's what I was wondering. Maybe the Man of War, Harris County Iron Horse.
Man of War, the Iron Horse of Harris County, because
Well, think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then instead of making a decision on the fly.
So I think everything here is fine except for the name for the trail. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think we ought to have Man of War in there somewhere.
Well, I do too.
Okay.
Let's think about it.
Okay, we have a motion, we don't have a second.
No, we did not have a second yet, so. On the,
Yeah, we did. Rob made a second.
Did you make the
no,
second?
on the, y'all already voted on that.
We already voted on
Yes.
that.
Oh, okay, this is on the new
Yes.
motion. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
He has
table
a
this.
motion, so what do you have to do? You have to withdraw his motion.
Yeah, I will
You'll agree
I
to
would,
table.
I'll agree to table it so that we can make sure we get the name.
Okay,
Proper.
we need to do that fairly quickly so we can move ahead with the production.
Are you okay with this?
We're going to have, move ahead with production because it doesn't have any reference.
Yeah.
Panels don't have any title on it.
Yeah, the title would just be what we're gonna call it, it's not even gonna go in the map.
Correct.
So we.
Go on the map.
It'll go on the map. Right, so we, yeah, and I think the Man of War, the Iron Horse of Harris County, I think is probably the best title for it.
Yeah.
Because,
Of Harris County, Georgia.
yes, of course, we're not in Texas.
So now it's long and short.
It'll be all right.
You got it short.
You can abbreviate county CO.
That's coming. Okay, Randy, Roger, that.
Okay, number 10. We are beating that Iron Horse. Okay, it's getting late. Here is the program of work. Let me show you, again, we're halfway through the fiscal year. The highlights are number 2, countywide email system. That should be functioning by late of this year. And so everything should be finished with the email system and operating by late of this month. Number 9, 5 of the 6 pieces of the new Caterpillar equipment came in today, and there was training with Public Works on that today. So 5 of the 6 new pieces of equipment has come in. The last piece will come in next month. And that consists of wheel loader, 2 motor graders, a bulldozer, track loader, and the excavators coming next month. So that will be put in operation real soon. Number 10, replacement fuel card readers. We are getting bids for that right now. That should be on the board's agenda for consideration on January the 7th. And the new Rex fuel card system will be implemented beginning tomorrow. We do have all the cards in. All of our computer systems have been set up. So the new Rex fuel card system countywide will begin tomorrow. Number 18, the community center's pool equipment. Duffield Aquatics began that project today. So they should be here for several more days, installing all of the new community center's pool equipment. Number 21, Ellison Park Lodge. The construction company is on site and repairing that lodge that was damaged by the March tornado. That should be finished by the end of this month. And the funding source is 100% insurance proceeds. Number 22, Ellison Park grinding and chipping operation of all of the collected storm debris from that March tornado. About 71% has been completed. Vic grinding's been there all week, last week and this week, and so that project is about 71% completed. It should be finished by the next 2 weeks. And the park looks cleaned up. It looks very good. We couldn't ask for anything else, anything much better. Number 26, Roads and Trails. Again, phase 1, we're closing out that federal T grant. Phases 2 and 3 are under construction, and that should be finished by early next year, or during early next year. And we'll know in February or March if we got the grant application that was submitted this year to continue on phase 4. Hopefully that we'll get good news in February or March. Number 38, the State Route 315 water line upgrade to serve the Mulberry Grove development. The board approved that at the last meeting, and a pre-construction meeting is going to be in the middle of January. So that project will start in earnest in the middle of January, 45 days to completion, or about late February. Number 40, I believe the county's land use and development codes. The board approved contract with Wood to begin that year-long process. Number 41, Valley Lakes Dam. The state approved the county submitted proposal, and the county's consultants are now working on the construction plans to send to EPD by March the 5th. So that is progressing. Number 46, the annual legislative dinner that was conducted last night, December 16th. So that is completed. So basically that's the highlights. Be more than happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, any questions? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, ma'am, I have one item. It's quitclaim deed for Mount Airy Road. Back in 2002, March of 2002, the county had a public hearing and abandoned two small tracts of Mount Airy Road. Mount Airy Road had been a prescription road up until that before there, and as you can see on your agenda item, there the Mount Airy Road is now an 80-foot title road, and there was a 2.451 acre that was in the prescription that somebody else owned, and the county just had acquired the right to use it by maintaining it over the years. And there was also another tract of 0.0281 acres between the bigger tract, the 2A, and 2B, and there was some question about the ownership of that. The county at the commission in March decided to just abandon the road, and they would approve any quitclaim deeds if somebody came forward and requested that the road be transferred to them. And there has been that request that has been made by, and I don't know how to pronounce their last name, but they own the property that is designated John K. and Young Kim, and so that property fronts onto them between these two tracts were between them and Mount Airy Road, and so there's a quitclaim deed that has been prepared and to release any interest that the county may have in those two tracts to that the request or whatever their names are. However, there's one thing that I started doing years ago, is that when we gave up any type of prescriptive right-of-way, that we always reserve a utility easement across the property in case that we needed to locate county water, any gas, sewer, or cable or fiber optic cable. And this will be these two pieces will be quitclaim to the individual shown on the quitclaim deed who own the adjoining property, subject to a utility easement across it. I recommend this to you for your approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll make the motion to accept this. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion or questions of Mr. Taylor? Okay, no discussion, no questions. All those in favor? All right, motion carries.
Madam Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay, does anyone have anything else that we need to talk, that we need to discuss?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That's gonna be my last remark. Merry Christmas, and thank you for coming. Now, is there a need for an
There
executive
is one other
session?
thing.
Okay.
Today is a very auspicious day.
Should I look at it?
I'm not going to divulge anything more than it is Nancy McMichael's birthday, and she is a very, very important asset to Harris County.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
He didn't say anything to me, I've got it in my calendar.
Is there a need for an executive session? No need for executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second.
Yes.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you folks for coming, yeah.